Fetterman is one of the biggest disappointments in our political space. Two things. Democrats going around the country believe, according to the article Politico, I'll pull it up in a moment, that they would be able to go after Republicans for budget cuts. That is not what they got. What they got were a lot of angry Democrats who pushed their anger to the party itself. Now, I don't think this is at the volume that I would want. I don't think this is with the intensity that I would want. But the fact that some elements of the party recognize that the Democratic Party is the problem is good. Fetterman is was in Israel. I don't know if he's still there. One of the biggest disappointments to ever come into Congress. For one, he looks like a slob. He looks like Lurch. He wears these, sweats into Congress, which I don't like. You're representing the entirety of your state. At the very least, you should look like you're representing the entirety of your state. This is him slobbing it up with Netanyahu.
How about giving him a beeper?
It's like
this is a silver-plated beeper. The real beeper is like 1/10 the weight. It's nothing. Really? Yeah, but it changes history.
When that story broke, yeah, and I was like, oh, I love it, and now it's like, thank you for this. Yeah, no, all right.
He's talking about the Pager story in Lebanon that killed, wounded, injured all of those people, many of which were not members of Hezbollah, where they effectively just put random pages all throughout society that blew up and exploded at a particular time based on something Israel did to the pager. I don't know if it was a bomb in it. I don't know if it was just ready to explode. I think it was just ready to explode. Either way, it injured a lot of people. If you were riding a motorcycle or moped and your pager blows up on your hip, okay, you're going to crash that moped at the very least. If you are a 6-year-old and you hear the pager ring, you go get it and it blows up, okay, you may die. You're 6 years old. This happened all through Lebanon, what Israel effectively did. Lurch here is like, oh, I love that story when it came out. I thought it was fantastic. And Lurch has been one of these Democrats, just like many of the Democrats, that have been completely obsequious to Israel. And they've decided that anything that they could do is correct, even up to the point of a genocide. The point that I'm making here is Joe Biden was also part of that coalition, regardless of the complaining and bitching he was doing in the White House. 70 to 80% of everything Israel could do in pursuing the genocide was effectively paid for by Joe Biden and us, taxpayers of America. And now Trump, who said he was going to be different, has now opened up a war in Yemen while giving the green light to Israel to resume the war in Gaza after ignoring, by the way, the fact that Israel blew off the peace talks. Give me your take on this developing story.
A couple of things. Number one, what we're seeing more and more is the truth about Israel. And that is that, to me, the argument goes like this. Israel's running the United States. And the reality is that in the same way that my hand is running my body, it's an appendage of my body.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I protect my hand? Because it would hurt. I mean, I don't want to lose my fingers. That's part of my body. Israel is not even a project of the United States. They consider it the most important imperial intelligence and military outpost. It is an outpost. And people are like, Greater Israel wants to move out for Israel. Nah. In the same way that the United States wants to take Greenland, it wants to take Canada to expand its presence here. It's expanding its military outposts in the Middle East, and they're calling it Israel wants to expand. The United States has a base, which is Israel Intelligence Base, and it's expanding the base.
Yes.
And so the U.S. gets plausible deniability. It's not plausible anymore, but that's what it always was. It was this. Israel's killing a bunch of people. And the U.S. was like, well, we're trying to stop them, but they just won't listen to us. Oh, I mean, I wish Israel would listen to it, but we try to stop them. Here was a giveaway. This was a dead giveaway. That Israel had bombed a bunch of hospitals or killed some people in tents, something horrific, right? And the world was like, oh my God, Israel, this is terrible. This time we got to act. This is unthinkable. The United States, and like a couple of the Biden people, yeah, that was bad. They probably shouldn't have did that, right? And some of the Israeli cabinet members came out and said, hey, wait a minute. Tony Blinken was in the meeting with us, and he approved all of those targets like he always does. And everybody, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, people are not supposed to know that we approve or pick all of the targets. Remember the game. You're the bad guys. You do the evil things, and then we say, oh, we wish Israel wouldn't do it, and then we protect you legally all over the world and give you more stuff to do evil things with. It's a big game. Sadly, a lot of Americans don't want to believe how evil, brutal, and vicious their government is. So in their minds, they have to say, Israel's the one doing it, and my government's trying to stop them. We killed 1 million people in Iraq, 3 million people in Vietnam. I could go on and on and on. But somehow people want to believe that we're being dragged around into a genocide in Palestine, unlike all the other ones that we committed. Here's the truth. This Palestine genocide, which it is, pales in comparison to the genocides that the United States have been committing non-stop. It's just another genocide to the U.S. empire. To us, it's outrageous because we can kind of really see it finally right in front of our faces because there's social media and there's people there and we get the information in real time. They can't get away with what they used to. But to the U.S. empire, in fact, I bet you this, the leaders of the empire are like, what are the people all upset about? It's just another genocide. I mean, come on, this is nothing. This is a small genocide compared to the normal ones we do. We don't understand why the people are so upset. That's my position.
Yeah, I think two things are happening. I think in one sense, I agree with you. It's a colony of, well, let's say the U.S. uses it as a military base in the Middle East. 1,000% agree. I mean, Joe Biden even said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to create it. Effectively, we need our own little colony in the Middle East to affect our political will in that area. And we can talk to the Israelis, get them to do X or Y. They take the blame for it. We, shake our head at, oh, that's so bad that they did those things as they pursue U.S. imperial objectives. 1,000% agree with you on that. I also think there's a secondary thing of Israel itself that has their own thoughts and wants, and they want to expand Israel into that greater Israel. I think they fully commit to that colony every bit as much as America committed to the colony here in the U.S. And there are very clear similarities between the two, which is, I also believe, plays into it. We come to a location, we start off as Brits, we expand all the way out to the entirety, going, with this notion of God is with us, this manifest destiny. It is cosmic. It is meant to be. We have all of these ideas in our head at the point where we break away from the Brits and just move and take all of America. And I think Israel has similar ideas in their minds, regardless of the way America sees them as a colony. Richard Nixon, I think, was perfectly right when he pointed out, look, our position is going to differ from Israel. And it requires a U.S. president to say no when there's a deviation in what is in our best interest versus what is in their best interest. And it will come up. I guess my thought is all of this is not in our best interest. None of this is in our best interest. This idea that we're starting a war with Yemen that is unnecessary, as opposed to dealing with the main issue, which is Israel is expanding. They're running an open air ghetto and they're running an apartheid state. And you need to deal with that, or you're not dealing with anything. And by the way, one last point before I send it back to you. After October 7th happened, I thought this is so bad, meaning this war over the last year, this genocide is so bad that you can't go back to October 7th. You have to find a solution. Like, you can't keep doing this. Something needs to be resolved in this. Now, this has been going on for like 70, 80 years, right? So me saying that, okay, you're Johnny come lately into something that has been there before you were even born. But it's true. Like the October 7th thing felt like something needs to break. There has to be something to change. Trump could be that guy. Trump is not going to be that guy. I don't think he's going to be that guy. Even if he looked the Muslim community in the eye, shook their hands, said, I'm going to end the war. Trump is not that guy. He has lied. He has betrayed the community, the Muslim community that he said he was going to represent. He has betrayed America when he said he was going to look out for America first. This is not America first. Give me a take on this.
Well, remember when Biden came in and said, we're going to bring back the good jobs. In other words, we're going to reindustrialize America. Remember Biden came in and said, hey, we're going to do free college. We're going to $15, all these stuff. And he got in and absolutely never even brought him up again. It's like, oh, I've been elected. All right, there you go. That worked. Thanks, suckers. And off he went, right? That's the way it works. And what people don't want to admit is that that's the game. So Trump came in, same thing. Hey, I'm going to reindustrialize. I'm going to bring back the good job. We're going to put America first. Really? Is this in America's best interest? From the perspective of the oligarchs and the empire, they feel it is in America's best interest because America is making the world safe for corporate hegemony. You know what I mean? So we're not included in that. We're not part of the America that they see that things are making it best for. Our jobs, we are an inconvenience to them. And, you know, the people out here who actually have a conscience, who have some other concern with other human beings, we're an inconvenience for them. They have to propaganda us. They have to lie to us. And if worse come to worse, then they have to basically arrest us and throw us out of the country for saying we don't agree with genocide, with the genocide, you know, because when someone says America first, what do you mean when you say America, right? Well, you said you were going to make America first. Yeah, I did. And by America, I meant all of my donors and my billionaire donors, not you. You're not part of this equation. So what's interesting is when he said America first, nobody ever asked him to define America. You know, I used to write laws and regulations. And what do you have at the beginning of regulations or laws? You have it like a glossary. You have a list of words that you're going to use in the laws and then a definition of each one of them. Because when I read a law that says you can or can't do this, I got to know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So before, when a politician says, I'm going to put America first, nobody says to them, what's America? Well, they're going to lie anyway. But it means something very different to us than it does to them. We have a conscience. We're human beings. This is an empire. What they're really saying is, I'm going to put the empire first. If that means laying off a bunch of soccer moms that work for the Department of Education or the Department of whatever, who are feeding their families, who cares? You know, whatever that means, it means cutting. They're now going to cut the Department of Education, which will then push everything down to the states. You'll have gigantic classes. The schools will be a disaster. They'll have to cut schools. Our education system will be far worse than it is. And the only way you'll be able to get a decent education for their kids is pay astronomical fees for a private school, right? Which means now they don't stop to think, well, gee, we're going to have stupid people. We're going to have we've got to compete with China. China is improving their education system, and we're obliterating ours to save money because the only thing we know is knuckle dragging. We're going to take our fist out and punch China and punch Russia and sanction and terror and force people our way. We never think that we need to improve. It's the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan thing. When Tanya Harding realized she couldn't beat Nancy Kerrigan, did she say, I need to practice more? No. Oh,
I'm sorry.
There you
go. I was listening. I was interrupting.
Yeah, no. When Tanya Harding didn't say, well, I need to practice more. I need to work harder. I need to do this. No, she didn't. She says, I'll take a club and beat her in the knees. That way she can't compete. That's Imperial. That's what the empire does. That's all they think about. And I add, this restructuring of the empire, which means screwing over the people, is basically we're going to restructure the empire on the backs of Americans. Why? Well, we're $37 trillion in debt. Why? Because of gigantic tax cuts for the billionaires and because of war. All of that money went to the military industrial complex. So they say, we're going broke because we spent money in a profligate way, right? Okay, fair enough, you did. We gave all the money to the billionaires and now we're broke. Really? Who's going to have to pay for it? The same people that suffered in the first place, the working class. We'll take more from them. They're running us broke by giving too much money to the billionaires through war and tax cuts. And now, how are they going to fix it? By laying off a bunch of working class people and cutting all the things that we need to get a decent education or whatever else. That's neoliberalism.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. Before you got here, I was showing a clip of J.D. Vance. And I'm fascinated by this clip because this clip is hitting directly upon what you are saying here, that they had a model in their mind of what the world was going to look like under globalization. And in the model of their mind, we were going to benefit, or at least, let's say, elements of society was going to benefit. But the global South was effectively going to remain poor forever. That we are going to remain in this primary position. They're going to build stuff. We're going to accept the things that they build. We're going to design things. And so we're going to have certain types of jobs. And they are going to, let's say, do the building force. And so they're not necessarily going to be the primary movers and shakers in the economy in regards to the side that's getting the most cash. We are. And he points out, okay, well, that didn't work. And because that didn't work, Trump now has to reshape the world economy to make America in a better spot. And I think your point is what they consider to be America. It's not really the majority of America. It's a slice. This speech is fascinating by the fact that he admitted this aloud. Like the fact that you're saying, yeah, we expected the global South to be poor forever. Okay, why? did you expect that? Why did you expect the global South to be willing to accept that position? And I would imagine what he's talking about primarily is China, which is a pivot that the Trump administration effectively wants to make because they consider China to be their primary threat, while Russia may be a military force. Russia's not necessarily trying to take over the world, whereas they look at China and say, okay, well, they're trying to displace us from our pinnacle position in regards to the world's economy. This clip is amazing. I want to get your take. I'm just going to play a part of it.
Because there were two conceits that our leadership class had when it came to globalization. The first is assuming that we can separate the making of things from the design of things. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things. You would open an iPhone box and it would say designed in Cupertino, California. Now, the implication, of course, is that it would be manufactured in Shenzhen or somewhere else. And yeah, some people might lose their jobs in manufacturing, but they could learn to design, or to use a very popular phrase, learn to code. But I think we got it wrong. It turns out that the geographies that do the manufacturing get awfully good at the designing of things. There are network effects, as you all well understand. The firms that design products work with firms that manufacture. They share intellectual property, they share best practices, and they even sometimes share critical employees. Now, we assume that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain, they also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends.
That clip is fascinating. Oh, God, I love that clip. J.D. Vance is like, oops, we got it wrong. We thought we'd remain in the pinnacle position forever, which, again, is kind of fascinating to me on why you believe you're going to be in a pinnacle position forever. But then he says people could just learn the code. I remember when the Democrats said this, I hated this, especially when they were talking about the people in West Virginia, where they were like, okay, those people, I know they were doing coal mining for all of these years, and I know they supply energy for America for all of these years. Many of them got black lung, many of them got sick doing it. But hey, oh well, we're done. Go learn the code. And you can get back into the economy. Okay, there's a reason that West Virginia turned red. It wasn't always red. Joe Manchin is a Democrat, but West Virginia wasn't always this kind of deep red state in the way that it became after Democrats just kind of uttered, frivolously. People can just learn the code. Vance is effectively echoing the same sentiment. It is amazing to me how similar these parties are in the way that they think. And that when the globalists and the people set up this kind of global economy in their minds, they were enshrining, let's say, the West as the pinnacle position of that economy with the idea that this is going to be the foreseeable future, the end of history. And he's like, it didn't work out that way. Apparently, countries that are poor don't want to be poor. And those countries make moves to not be poor. That's a problem for us. And so we need to reshape the world economy. That is amazing. So I think what he's talking about here is China. China pulled 200 million people out of poverty. They've gotten to the point of being economically, militarily, industrially sophisticated. They have 1.5 billion people. We have 320 million. They raise like 2/3 of what would be the US out of poverty conditions. And whereas we spent $10 trillion in Iraq, trillions of dollars in Syria, trillions of dollars in bum F, whatever part of the world you want to point to, they spent their money, education, healthcare, building, high-speed rail, putting stuff in space, etc. They didn't spend their money on wars. And Vance is recognizing we have a problem. We are falling behind, and we need to reshape the world economy in order to put us in a better position going forward into the future. Now, your point is, but you are simultaneously destroying the things in America that would allow us to proceed into the future, education being one of those things. You're absolutely right. Like the notion that MAGA is having this argument about, oh, we have these HB1 visas where people are coming over because Americans are too stupid to do those jobs. That is a bit rich when you're saying that and destroying an educational system or educational base that would allow us to actually do those jobs. How are both of these things existing simultaneously? And when you get Vance making the speech, and it's like, but dude, you're not investing in those things. You are cutting to the bone and destroying the infrastructure that would be necessary for America to actually compete in an economic, industrial sense. Go into this for me. Give me your take on this.
Couple of things. Number one, the first word out of his mouth, I'm like, is he a Marxist? The leadership class. He starts off by saying, this is all, first of all, this is about class politics. And in the same way that the socialists and Marxists say it's all about class politics, so do we. That's why we hate the socialists and Marxists, because they say it's all about class politics. And you're not supposed to know that, right?
Yep.
The leadership class. I would ask him, well, who the hell would that leadership class be? And might I add, he calls them the leadership class, and then his soliloquy goes on to demonstrate that the leadership class are idiots and they didn't know what they were talking about.
Yep.
Right? The leadership class, man, they got it all wrong. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're a bunch of friggin' idiots. So let's listen to their next plan as to how to fix it. He basically says the leadership class completely screwed up, and now the leadership class has to put together a plan to fix what they screwed up, right? I'm on a boat and I've got a captain and we're out in the ocean, and I say, Captain, where are we? I don't really know. What, haven't you chartered a course? Yeah, but it's all screwed up. I thought I was doing what I was doing, but I guess I really don't really know how to chart courses that good. And then I say, okay, Captain, you step aside. I know how. I got a sextant here. I'll use the stars, and I know how. I'll chart a course back home. He says, no. You let me do it. I'm the captain here. You're the one that got us here, and you don't know where we are, and you don't know how to chart a course, but you're supposed to come up with a plan to get us home. That's basically what he said. It's absurd. Class politics, they screwed up, but they're the ones that are supposed to fix it. It's amazing to sit. That's what I got out of that. And as you said, one of the things with class politics is the concept that there's a hierarchy. They're very hierarchical, right? There's a hierarchy. We're supposed to be at the top, and the global south is supposed to be at the bottom, right? And in a hierarchy, you're supposed to accept you were born here, right? You were born in this class, in this caste system, right? I'm a member of the noble class. My father was an earl, and my grandfather was the archduke of something else. I was born to the noble class, right? You were born a peasant. Our course in life was decided at the birth canal. You're a peasant. Why would you try to live like a noble person or try to make decisions like a noble person, right? Very class politics. Look, we're the US. This is where we were born. And as far as we were concerned, the global south was always going to be here. And these other countries were always, because this is a hierarchy system. And shockingly, they wouldn't accept their place at the bottom of the hierarchy. What he's really saying is our view of the world was incorrect. We thought they'd stay there. We thought they'd be happy to be there. You should be a happy slave. You were born a slave, and you should be happy to stay a slave your whole life, because that is your lot in life. That's where you were born. That's your place in the hierarchy, and you should be there. And shockingly, the slaves didn't want to be slaves anymore. The people at the bottom didn't want to be at the bottom anymore. And here's the problem they have with, say, a China and a Russia. And now what we're saying is, okay, we are going to reshape the global economy. Well, sorry, pal, you no longer have the power. You don't have the economic power. You don't have the military power. You don't have the diplomatic power to reshape the world economy. So the US is going to be screaming at Russia and China and BRICS, okay, we're reshaping the world economy, guys. We're reshaping everything. And they're going to be like, yeah, sure. Sorry, we're having a BRICS meeting right now. We're developing a new currency, but you guys, keep yourself, amuse yourselves. If we're going to be like at the bottom in poverty, falling apart, and the president's going to be shaking his fist at the world. No, we're reshaping the world economy. Everybody should listen to us, and that's where we're a joke. This is a joke to watch these clowns unable to accept the reality. It's like looking at Europe and Russia. Russia's going to have to accept defeat, and you're like, literally, this is a true fact. Your leader is von der Leyen, Ursula von der Leyen. She was the foreign minister. Yes, she was the defense minister for Germany. When she was the defense minister, she was so bad that they had a NATO exercise. The Germans didn't have guns. They had to take broomsticks and paint them black and pretend they were machine guns, like little kids running around going bang, 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 bang with a black stick. That's your leader. And you think the Russians have to acquiesce to your, and everybody's just looking at you saying, what the hell's wrong with you people? You've lost it. That's what I saw from him. unable to accept that the hierarchy has turned upside on his head because the people, the so-called, as he called them, the leadership class, are clowns, are incompetent, hapless, greedy bunglers.
You're so right. You're so right. And I guess one last story. One of your favorites, Nazi Princess Annalena Baerbock. Well, I guess she's my favorite too, even though I think she's a lunatic.
She's a pretty little lunatic. I'll give her that.
Yeah, she's a pretty lunatic. I give her all the credit for being an attractive lunatic. She has gone so far as to saying that Germany is going to put right here. I can't believe that the Germans are okay with this woman being in anywhere near and close to power. And the stuff that she says. Like, she's the one who went and said, I don't care what Germans think. We're going to do this. We're going to support Ukraine to the final end. It's in German. I'll show her as she says it. But she is effectively saying that she wants to put in security of Europe into law. She's saying it right here. We must think about security strongly and above all, an integrated manner. In Germany, in 2 years, we laid out a national security strategy. Let's see, she laid out a national security strategy that combines internal and external security, where Germany assumes greater responsibility for its own security and for the security of Europe. Now, let's be very clear. Germany was the preeminent country in the Second World War that initiated that war. They got, 30 million Russians killed, something to that effect? Like 1 million Americans, or hundreds of thousands of Americans, hundreds of thousands of Brits, hundreds of thousands of French. Should they be all that enamored with the idea that Germany is like, yeah, we're going to assume greater security control of Europe? And this goes along with Starmer and Macron trying to effectively put their thumb into the peace deal of von der Leyen saying, we're going to raise $600 billion. We're going to raise $1 trillion to revamp European security.
You know what? Unfortunately, I hate to say it, I gotta leave. I just looked up and I got to do crosstalk with what's his name, and I just realized that they just texted me. Okay, so well, just call me back any day. Okay, sorry about that. I got to run. I forgot about that.
He's going to be on right now. Be safe, my man. Thank you for this.